Yes, as I said, beginning, my name is Mary. I'm the Communications Officer at Ecotourism. We'd like to begin with a brief of our organization. As I understand, we are a mix of Ecotourism Kenya members and also non-members. And before I do that, I'd like to welcome our CEO just for a brief to greet us. Then you can begin with our brief. And then I will invite Professor to do the webinar facilitation.
Thank you so much, Mary. And also, it's a pleasure to see the members as well as the non-members who have joined today's webinar. We are pleased to bring you just to gain the insights into one of these tourism market, being the China market, and just how to explore and go about it. So as Ecotourism Kenya, we are very much committed in supporting the responsible tourism, while also helping our members on how to navigate into the new market responsibly. So I'm looking forward for us to have very actively engaged with our speaker for today. That is our Professor Wolfgang, who is going to take us through this, as well as just to understand what are some of the initiatives that Mary will present that Ecotourism Kenya is up to, together with now even sensitizing the non-members, the kind of initiative that Ecotourism Kenya is doing to position Kenya as a sustainable tourism destination. So thank you so much, Mary. Over to you.
Thank you, Lynette. I hope you can all see the screen. So Ecotourism Kenya is a membership association, that strives to link communities, tourism and conservation. Our vision is to build a sector that contributes towards biodiversity conservation, community well-being and development, as well as economic sustainability. And we do that in a number of ways, as stated in our mission. As a members organization, we are driven by a charter that we adhere to, and we also sensitize our members to adhere to. And they are outlined in very simple language that rests on the principles of sustainability in the tourism sector. Yes, we are members of the Kenya Tourism Federation, that is the private sector association in Kenya that represents the private tourism bodies, businesses and organizations in Kenya. And we are also part of the Glasgow Declaration on Climate Action in Tourism. We joined last year, and through our climate action program, we align our program, our plans with the five pathways that are outlined in the declaration, so that we can also contribute alongside our members to climate action in tourism. And one of the ways that we do that is that we have partnered with SANEX program, Climate Friendly Travel, through their listing on their travel registry, which is a map that showcases tourism businesses dedicated to climate action. We have listed our eco-rated properties there, and to connect with climate conscious travelers, and also to gain that global visibility. Yes. So our values are commitment to the environmental preservation and natural habitats, cultural respect, inclusion of local communities, ethical standards in our actions and practices, collaborations, and also innovations. Yes. And these are our focus areas: sustainability and climate resilience, partnership and collaboration, capacity building and community engagement, technology adoption, and alignment with national and global policies. Yes, as a membership organization, we gain consensus through actions for our activities and programs at the annual general meeting, where we get input from our members. But the organization is overseen by an executive board, representative of individuals who work in the sector of hospitality, travel, environment, and conservation. And within the organization, we also have subcommittees that serve in different capacities, and all of them are also our members. And then we have now the secretariat that is led by the CEO. Yes, so these are our technical committees. If you're interested to serve in a committee, you can let us know. You do have to be a member but we always are open to work with anyone in the industry committed to responsible tourism. Yes, these are our programs. We have a membership engagement program, community outreach and development, standards and best practices, leadership and mentorship, policy, research, and advocacy programs that I will go into a bit briefly. I would invite you to peruse through our website and learn more about it in depth at your own time. And if you have any inquiries, you can feel free to reach out to us. So we engage our members through events and information sharing, that is the communications aspect, as we are geared towards social behavior change to enable adoption of responsible tourism practices within operations and in the business aspect as well. And these are the events that we have. And we have webinars such as this one. We have a leadership and mentorship program training that focuses on the youth. We have an annual Sustainable Tourism Forum held in June. We have an annual general meeting, a community-based tourism enterprise engagement week. We have Eco Warrior Awards, as well as information sharing of best practices, sector trends, and opportunities. Yes, so our membership is wide. We are unique in Kenya in the sense that we try to get everyone in the tourism value chain. We do have membership categories, that is corporate, individual professional, individual student, and community-based tourism enterprise or organization, but we try to get anyone who's working in the sector, and we have a place for everyone. So I would invite you to consider joining Ecotourism Kenya. Yes. So these are some of the events that I mentioned earlier, the annual forum and the Eco Warrior Awards. Yes, the standards and best practices program is where now we really try to engage either businesses or tourism accommodations or tour operator. They are well versed in it. We try to support them in their journey through now the certification, if they are the accommodation property that is, and we offer a systematic approach to evaluating practices that they conduct within the operations, to get them to be more environmentally, economic, and social culturally conscious and proactive in that regard. And it has two branches. One is for eco-rating for natural and protected areas, while the other is for accommodation set in city and urban areas. Yes, it has 3 levels, the entry being bronze eco-rated. Then the next one, you advance to silver eco-rated, and the top level is gold eco-rated. Yes. We also have the climate resilience program that I alluded to earlier on, that we are trying to align to the Glasgow Declaration, and it focuses on sustainable infrastructure development, circular economy practices, and nature-based solutions. It's a new program that we launched last year at the Sustainable Tourism Forum, and we're really looking to scale it up and engage more of the tourism players. We have also an ongoing discussions with Travel Life for tour operators. This one now is a certification for tour operators and travel agents, similar to eco-rating for accommodations. Now this one looks at operations for tour operators to guide them towards adoption of responsible tourism. Yes, and then we have the leadership and mentorship program that's nurtures young and upcoming talents or youth, who are either undergraduates or recent graduates in the fields of hospitality, travel, environment, community development, or even conservation. And we train them for about for a week's period, and then we place them to our members where they can get now that exposure and an opportunity to actually either start or continue their career. Yes. And then we have the policy research and advocacy program, where that we through, for example, the Kenya Tourism Federation, other stakeholder engagement platforms where we gather, input from our members. We show up that we represent their interests and their needs, as well as also to guide adoption of responsible tourism practices. As we are leading and focus on that, we like to present our expertise in that area, so that there's a wide scale or sector-wide adoption of sustainable practices. Yes, and through that we like to work in various projects. So these are some of the projects we have engaged in: SASTOA project, Green Tour Kenya project, the UNEP project, as well as the NOREC partnership. We also serve in several committees to work. As we said earlier, one of our values is working together with other people, collaboration. So we serve in different committees to share our sustainability expertise. Yes, and then we have community outreach and development program, where we engage community-based tourism enterprises and organizations through capacity building, mentorship, marketing and promotion of their products and services, sustainable development, social inclusion, and community engagement, as well as research. Yes, so I know that's a lot of things that we do, but the 5 programs allow us to really work together with different players in the sector. And we'd love to work with you, and also invite you to consider membership at our organization. You can write to us via membership@ecotourismkenya.org. That's membership@ecotourismkenya.org, as well as follow us on our online platforms to learn more about opportunities and activities that we conduct. Yes. So at this point, I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Wolfgang to.
Hello, everybody.
Take it away.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Lynette. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to join you. And thank you very much for our cooperation and for the opportunity to talk today. And I just followed your introduction. So obviously, Ecotourism Kenya is very active and doing a lot of good things. And so therefore, I hope that we can work together for the Chinese fairs, but also for other projects in the future. So I have been one time in my life in Kenya, which is more than 10 years ago, I think. So originally I planned to come in May for your ecotourism conference, but now with all the flights a problem, but I will come certainly soon. So what we want to talk today about is the Chinese outbound market, which just has become more important as now many European people and Middle East people will be reluctant to travel, and especially about how you can, with the help of ecotourism Kenya, participate in a shared stand at 2 of the most important fairs we have. And so let me see if I can start my presentation. And so we will also have at the end a short video. So let's see. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So here we are. Okay, so let's see if that's working. Yes. So my name is Wolfgang Georg Arlt. I am the CEO of COTRI, that's the China Outbound Tourism Research Institute, which I've been leading for 22 years now, a long time. I'm also the executive director of the Meaningful Tourism Center. I will tell you briefly also what that is. So what I have prepared for you today is that after the introduction, I will talk about the Chinese outbound tourism today. And then I will go a little bit further into the specific question of Africa and mainly East Africa, Kenya, as a destination for Chinese travelers. And then I will tell you some more about the GITF, the Guangzhou International Travel Fair, the oldest in China. And the BITLF, the Beijing International Travel and Lifestyle Fair, the newest fair in China, starting this year for the first time. Both are organized by the same company, as opportunities to access the southern market for GTF and the northern Chinese market in Beijing. And with our COTRI recommended exhibitor program, helping you to have a successful and long-lasting effect from participation. And of course, at the end, we will have a Q&A. So please, if there are any questions, keep them in mind, or maybe you can also write them into the chat already. So we will have enough time at the end to talk about the Q&A. And so before we start, so just let's realize that so the area where I'm now in Kathmandu in Nepal, so South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, this is the home of half of all mankind. So when we talk about these markets, and especially about the Chinese market, we talk about half of everything, and you can see that this is compared to the European or the North American market, really the biggest source of travelers. And also, so right away, I can give you an overview so you can see what are we talking about when we talk about the Chinese outbound market. So this is something which I told you. So I started the COTRI, the China Outbound Tourism Research Institute, in 2004. At that time, China was still a very small market, and you can see on this graph. So the blue part of the column, this is Greater China, so that means Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan. And the brown part is the rest of the world. And you can see that even in 2004, the Chinese who were traveling beyond Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan was just a few million people. So it was a very small outbound market. Whereas when we go to the 2019, the year before the pandemic, you can see that already we had almost 100 million Chinese travelers going beyond Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan. And now we are going back to this level. And in this year, or at least next year, we will probably reach again the 170 million we had in 2019. So that is therefore, I think, you spending your time very wisely if you look in this market. So this is again by far the biggest in the world, and therefore worthwhile looking at. So briefly talking about me, so I've been working with China for now for 50 years, since I started to study in 1975 about sinology, about China. And I've been the first time in China in 1978, which is also now almost 50 years ago. And I was one of the very first ever individual travelers in China in 1981. So on the January 1st, 81, you could get the first individual travel visa, and I got one for January 1. And I've been a tour operator myself, so I know the business also from the practical side. And then in 2002, I became a professor for international tourism management, and I've been teaching in Germany, but also in the UK, in Australia, and China, and so on. And since 2004, I'm running this COTRI China Outbound Tourism Research Institute as a private company, and since 2021, the Meaningful Tourism Center as a NGO. And you can see I have quite a lot of connections especially to Asia, and especially to the Chinese market. And so I've been covering something like 56 or maybe more countries, helping people to learn how to receive Chinese travelers, how to make them happy, how to earn money in the process. Since 1.5 years, I'm living in Kathmandu. After I retired from my university job, I wanted to move to Asia, and so I'm living in the capital of Nepal. So COTRI is a non-profit organization within the Meaningful Tourism Center. We are based in London, but our headquarters is here in Kathmandu, and we have partners around the world. And we do training, consulting, and all the things connected to the Chinese market. And since also more than 20 years, we have the CTW Chinese Tourist Welcome Award, which hopefully also some of you can apply for this year. And we have been working with GITF for almost 10 years, and we organize every year a conference, also this year. But that's the first time that we are offering the COTRI recommended exhibitor services. What that is, of course, we will talk more about. So we did actually in December, 3 months ago, we did an online lecture on meaningful tourism in Kenya. And this slide is from that presentation where we have already been saying Europe is the past, Asia is the present, Africa is the future. And meaningful tourism is a tool for a sustainable and profitable success in tourism. So just briefly telling you what is meaningful tourism. So it's based on a very simple insight, namely that to have everybody happy, everybody has to be happy. So that means all stakeholders in tourism have to receive objective benefits, jobs, income, regional development, and subjective satisfaction. So everybody has to be happy being connected to tourism, and that includes the employees working in the organization, as well as, of course, the environment, which is harmed as little as possible. And so these stakeholders, we define mainly in these 6 groups: the travelers themselves, the host communities, the employees, the companies, the governments, and the environment on a local level and on a global level. And so with meaningful tourism as a tool, you can do all the things you see here. You can develop a strategy, you can monitor it, very important, and also you can use it for education of the industry and the general public as well. So meaningful tourism is rather new. It has only now 5 or 6 years history. It is a child basically of the pandemic, where we all had a lot of time to think about how will tourism be in the future. And I'm happy to say that in April last year, PATA, the Pacific Asia Travel Association, approved a vision statement, which is a meaningful Pacific Asia tourism economy. So that is for Asia Pacific already the official aim. And I hope we can achieve the same for Africa, of course, in the future as well. And already last year at the GITF in Guangzhou, we had the Meaningful Tourism Forum as a part of the conference about talk, and the title for the whole fair was Meaningful Tourism Enduring Connections. And you can see here our trainers, our certified trainers, which are all over the world. But of course, for today, important to say, you can see a lot of faces connected to Africa. So we have, I think, 10 trainers, including Brigid Murugi in Kenya, but also in your neighboring countries. And so we are quite well presented in sub-Saharan Africa. So there are also local people you can go to and learn more about meaningful tourism, and they can provide information and trainings for you. Why is this all important? Because obviously international tourism is at a crossroad. So climate change is destroying many traditional business models. In many places it gets too hot for beach holidays or for walking around in the city center. We have lots of we have droughts, we have heavy rainfalls. So I think you know exactly what we're all talking about, and it happens in your own country. And if you turn on the TV news, you can see it happens all over the world, that we have to adapt to climate change, which will not go away. At the moment, everybody is distracted from the war, but climate change is not stopping because of that. And we have, on the other hand, AI, which is changing tourism and hospitality dramatically. So the possibilities to disseminate information for the customers to find specific information and is growing a lot. But at the same time, of course, when people are afraid that jobs will be destroyed or taken over by AI. And also we can see, we will talk a bit about that, that the customer demand is changing from China and globally as well, that it's less now about sightseeing, or for Chinese, it used to be a lot about shopping. It is now moving forward to transformative experiences, so that you travel to really become a fuller personality, to learn something. And so that special interest trips become more and more important. So this is part of what is called the transformation economy. So we have been moving in tourism from the idea that we are offering services. I think most of us have moved to the idea that actually we are offering experiences. And especially when we talk about ecotourism, nature tourism, adventure tourism, that is obviously about experiences. But now the next step we are now coming to is actually transformation, so that these experiences are really not just creating a nice memory, but they're creating really a change in your personality for the better, hopefully. So that is connected each time with customization. So the services have to become more and more personal, less and less mass tourism, so more and more quality instead of quantity. But also it needs to be commodified, so it means also to become organized in a way that it can be consumed. So this is, well, very briefly the frame where we are in, where when we talk about Chinese market. But so let's go more specifically to the Chinese outbound tourism market as we are speaking. So very quickly, a timeline. So it is only 1980s that the very first Chinese outbound travelers could travel. At that time, China was still very poor. And it was only in 1997, so which is less than 30 years ago, that there were officially tourist visa for Chinese people traveling in groups. So the Chinese government admitted that there are people who actually want to spend money and time on leisure trips. And it was like 20 years ago that most countries in the world started to issue tourist visa for Chinese travelers. And then within 10 years, up to 2014, China became, out of basically nothing, we have seen the graph at the beginning, towards becoming the biggest international outbound tourism market. So when I started COTRI in 2004, most people were laughing at me and saying, oh, Chinese people as outbound travelers, come on. We go to China, yeah, but they come to us. How can that be? So within 10 years, China was the biggest market, and by 2019, the number of outbound trips reached 170 million, which was more than United States and Germany, number 2 and number 3 outbound markets combined. And it's not only how many people are traveling, also how much they are spending. So also the spending was much higher than per person per day than from most other source markets. Last year, we reached again about 135 million outbound trips, about half of them going beyond Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan. So China is already back to be the number one. And so, as we said, maybe this year or next year, it will reach again the 2019 level. So what happened was that before 2017, more or less, Chinese outbound tourism concentrated mostly on shopping, on sightseeing, and on going to the most famous destinations. So taking off the Eiffel Tower and the Brandenburg Gate and the Statue of Liberty in New York and the Opera House in Sydney and so on. And it was chic that you would spend as much money as possible to show your friends how rich you are and that you don't care. And you always go for the most expensive one. And all this was done by group trips, because most people had no experience in traveling outbound. There was a language barrier, and you had mostly Gen Z people dominating the market. So already before the pandemic, we saw a shift that with more experience, more people were traveling in small groups or even individually. The interest in culture, in experiences, in special interest was growing, and also Gen Z was gaining importance. Obviously, from 2020 to 2022, this all stopped, but people learned around the world, including in China, life can end very fast. So life is precious and fragile, so that you better do something meaningful with your life more than just rushing around and shopping and jumping from one place to another without really seeing anything and meeting anybody. So we can see that now after the pandemic, there is a very big shift in the market from towards quality. So Chinese travelers are still willing and able to spend money on their trip. They have many of them have more time, more money than they have time because they are working for their money very hard. But now it is not to say, oh, I go for the most expensive one, but I want to be sure that I get the quality for my money. And you can see a split between the upper end of the market, which is, I think, what we are talking about here. People who can spend the money to travel to Africa. So for whom it's not the question, can I afford this, but is it worthwhile spending the money for that? And we have the majority of the market where you can see now there's a tendency that they rather go to Vietnam or South Korea or Cambodia, so close by places, and that their spending per day has actually decreased because they are more careful with their money. But we can also see that clearly there is an interest in new destinations. So many have ticked off. They have been to Paris, they have been to New York, they have been to Sydney. So why should they go there again? So they want to go to new places. They want not just take a photo, but they want really to meet people, to share their culture. And they have a special interest in things like well-being or nature experiences, bird watching or whatever. So including safari, but not only safari, and also sports and other events. So all this is very good news uh, for Africa because so you don't need an Eiffel Tower anymore to attract Chinese tourists, and you don't need many Gucci and Hermes shops to attract them. But that also means that you have to assure the potential Chinese visitors that you have a special offer and you can give to them exactly what they want, and then they are willing also to pay for that. So connected with this is also that you have rather more middle-aged older people. We will come to that in a minute as well. So who are maybe also better experienced and well read. And one more point to mention is that now language probably has become much less a hurdle because you have so many apps now in your smartphone, and so you can talk in English and it will automatically translate into Chinese, or you can talk in Swahili or whatever. And so therefore, even for individual travel, it's now much more possible to do because you can talk through the smartphone to everybody, and the quality of this translation has become very good in the last few years. So very important point to understand when we talk about the Chinese, obviously we are talking about the top maybe 7% of the society. So we have a small group of very rich people. That's about 5 million people. They own 2/3 of all the total wealth. So China is a very unevenly distributed wealth society. So you have an elite of maybe 5 million people who have 2/3 of everything. And then we have what we can call a middle class. That's about 100 million people. So they own almost all the rest. And so then the common people, what in Chinese is called the Lao Xing, the 100 names. So there are 93% of the people, but they only have 7% of the wealth. So these people, we wish them all well, and well, their life has been getting better so that they don't have to be afraid that they are starving, and they have they have electricity and a bus coming to their village and some basic health services, which is much better than before. But they will never ever be able to pay a ticket to fly from China to Africa. So when we talk about the Chinese market, we basically talk about 100 million people, more or less, who are able and interested to come to Africa. And another important point to see is that in China, there used to be a one-child policy. This was stopped a long time ago, but still now we can see that because of that, we have a generation now of young, well-educated, single female children who went, most of them, to university in the cities. And these ladies are now saying, I don't want to be a mother because that will end my career. I don't even want to be married for many of them for the same reason. So we can see that within a decade, the number of births has halved from about 80 million to about 9 million. The number of marriages has also halved. So we have a whole new generation of young persons who are not married and have no children. So we have less young families and more individuals, singles, which then travel maybe typically a group of 4 or 5 women together. So they're 25, 28 years old. So, or maybe it's a group of boys, young men, that's the same thing. And of course, one effect of this is that there would be grandchildren which would have spent all their money, all their attention on the grandchild or the grandchildren. They don't have grandchildren now, so they can spend the money by themselves, for themselves, and that is very often then done in the form of traveling. So we can see that during the pandemic, domestic tourism industry has much improved the quality of their offers, because even the rich people had to stay in China for some years. So there was a better market for that. There is this new idea that saving money is sexy. It's not spending it as much as possible because the economic situation is not so good anymore. So there's less optimism, more anxiety than there was there for decades in China. And also there's a problem that in many places the Chinese people feel less welcome in Europe, because there is the perception that China is supporting Russia in the war with Ukraine. And also they're not so welcome in USA because there's this many conflicts going on between these two countries. So the opportunities are, as we said, they're interested in doing new things, going to new places. The senior citizens, so 55 to 65 maybe, who are now can spend more money on themselves, and they can travel longer. They don't have to rely on school holidays, and they have more than just 10-day holidays and normal Chinese people have. And there is, of course, with age comes an interest in health, but also there's a bigger interest in well-being, which means basically not just my body, but also learning how to be happy, how to be content, how to be a full personality. Because a lot of Chinese people have learned that they became rich, but they're still not happy. And many people are saying, oh, there are people in countries which have much less money, they have much less comfort, but they seem to smile all the time. They seem to be much happier than we are. I want to learn how they do that. So, in a nutshell, China is still the #1 global source market, and the Chinese are looking for new destinations and new transformational experiences. So, what does it mean for Africa? So, well, we know that before the pandemic, so there were 3 countries which were getting the highest number of Chinese tourists. Kenya, fortunately, one of them. So Egypt, Kenya, and South Africa were the main destinations. And what people were doing was mainly safari and, of course, business travelers. For many countries in Africa, China is the most, or one of the most important business partners, and a lot of investment obviously going on in Africa from China. Chinese people were not so interested in beach holidays because that is many Chinese people think that's a waste of time. And also, if you want to go to a beautiful beach, there are many nice beaches much further, much closer to China in Southeast Asia. They rather go to Bali or to some place in Malaysia or to Jeju Island in South Korea than traveling all the way to Africa and then just stay on a beach. But so this is that was the old way, but we can see now that there is a much increased interest of doing things where you learn something, where you have some new experiences, where you meet new people. So ecotourism is very important. So I think Ecotourism Kenya did the right thing to look at this market. Cultural tourism, so food, music, dance, architecture, all this stuff. And also, especially for a place like Nairobi, where there are a lot of young startup companies in IT and fashion and so on. So there are similar people in China who have a similar mindset. So there is also not only wildlife and nature and culture in the countryside, but there's also the nightlife and the business vibe in a place like Nairobi and other bigger cities in Africa, where it will be interesting for Chinese people to meet their counterparts and talk to them and see if they can do something together. So there is and well, talking about the recent situation, so Africa is a winner. I mean, it's sad to be a winner because other people are dying, but that's a fact that after the attack on Iran and now the bigger Middle East war we are all witnessing and suffering from has the effect that Addis Ababa and Nairobi are now discussed very much as a new air transport hubs, so taking over part of the role of Dubai and Doha. And also that also for Chinese people who are very much into safety and security, so they are very easily scared, that they will see Africa now as a safer place compared to the Middle East, Europe, or the USA, where even after the war has ended, hopefully soon, there will be the risk of terrorist attacks. And so the perception that it is not safe to go there and just wait for half a year, I think it will be at least until the end of this year. So hopefully nothing bad is happening. Still, it will be probably only next year that this will be forgotten over time. So Africa is profiting from that. That there is, it's not likely that this conflict is moving all the way to Africa. So there are opportunities, so special interest tours, so customized tours, not just and saying that there will still be safari, of course, don't worry, for first-time visitors. But if you want to bring people back and tell them why should they come to East Africa a second time, then you will have to tell them what else can you do. So I remember when I was in Nairobi and doing some China workshops and trainings, I think, yeah, 11 or 12 years ago, I was happily invited also to go on a short safari at the national park near Nairobi, which was very interesting. I liked it very much, but of course also I think, well, okay, I've done this. I'm not that keen on doing it another time. There are many other things I would rather do in Kenya than going on a second safari. And this is, I think, also for many Chinese people the case. So there's opportunity. If you offer something special, you will find customers for that. And homestay, if it is in a acceptable sanitary situation, is interesting. And so attracting young travelers, as we discussed. So probably young and older, so less the middle-aged people. That is one of the opportunities. Challenges, well, I'm sure you know better than me, so that it's very difficult to travel inside Africa. So if you want to combine a couple of countries, so the flight connections are not so well developed and very expensive. And main point, I think that both on your end, there's not so much knowledge about the Chinese market, especially about the new developments. I think many people I speak to still have this idea that Chinese tourists come in a big group and they want to take a photo and then rush to the next place, and that they are not interested in spending much money and not spending much time at one place. So this is no longer the case, but of course people still have this maybe experience from previous years. And also at the other end, in China, there is a clear lack of what is offered and lack what has developed on the supply side. So that's why you should go to a fair. And so that there's still a concentration on quantity and not quality. And well, as we heard at the beginning, ecotourism is one of the organizations, and I'm sure the National Tourism Organization of Kenya is doing the same to move this mindset from quantity towards quality. So we have GITF, Guangzhou International Travel Fair, and BITLF, the Beijing International Travel and Lifestyle Fair, which offer in May and in June, which are offering very good opportunities to access the southern and the northern Chinese source market. And we have developed the COTRI Recommended Exhibitor Program, which helps you to be successful when you go to China. So both these fairs are organized by the same organization, which is a German-Italian joint venture from Hanover Fair and Fiera Milano. And we have been working with them for a long time. And so there is, of course, another fair in Shanghai for East China. And so many people have been concentrating on the Eastern Chinese market. But actually, the biggest source market is the South in numbers. And also in the northern market is rather the market where people are most interested in culture, in heritage of different countries. So the Eastern market is a little bit more still into sightseeing. So therefore, it's a very good idea to look at the southern and the northern market. So, and let me briefly walk you through the fairs and what you can get as a recommended exhibitor, which doesn't cost anything extra. And at the end, if we have time, if Mary allows me, we can show you a short video. So the Guangzhou International Travel Fair will take place on May 21 to 23, so in 2 months from now. Guangzhou is one of the biggest cities in the world, number 22, I think, in the world, and is the capital of southern China, and has been the connecting place with the Western world since hundreds of years. So it's a more international-minded place than many other parts of China. It's 45 minutes by high-speed train from Hong Kong, so it's very easy, and there's a big airport, so it's very easy to get there. And the fair is the oldest one in China since 1993. And this year we start this COTRI Recommended Exhibitor Program, so which includes before GTF that we do webinars like this one, and that if you are participating, then we will also cover you in our communication. We have a weekly newsletter, COTRI Weekly. You can subscribe for free. Please do that. So we will, of course, talk about Kenya in that and also in other social media. We are offering, beyond what we are doing now, online consulting, so that we will do for those participants going to China a specific online consulting for free. And we can help you with all the stuff. If you need some local stuff, helping you with the stand. If you simple things you need to produce Chinese name cards and so on, our Chinese partners and us, so we can help you with all these things. And most importantly, probably we can help you to find the right distribution partners for your offers, so that you are talking to the right people when you are coming to the fair. So we will have a welcome dinner before the fair starts. we will provide you with a logo recommended by COTRI, which you can put on the stand, you can put on your name card. And there is the CTW award, which of course, again, you will be given preferred treatment if you are coming to the fair. And we are running a conference where we will also be happy to invite some of you on the panel, and we have a special session on Africa for that. And so again, we will help you to find the relevant business partners. And even afterwards, so we can organize for you that you can meet people outside of the fair. So special interest contacts. So if you want to meet somebody from a university or a professional association, the architects or the historians, whatever, we can organize this, and we will, of course, feature you in our all our social media. And this will be the beginning of a network for further cooperation. And so we can help you to organize fam trips or other marketing in China. And so we will be including you in our preference services. So very important, GRTF is also offering a pre-scheduled appointment system, so you can make appointments before even the fair starts. And again, we can help you to give you some information who you should meet, where the outcome is most likely positive. And you can see last year there were exhibitors and visitors from 45 countries. So visitors and exhibitors from 55 countries. And so you can see what is the most exhibitors are, of course, hotels, tour operators, tourism boards, scenic areas, but also other, including digital tourism. And well, if you look on the map, you can see Africa is 1%. That is not a lot. So that is what we have to push up. And yeah, so maybe that is, you can have a look at this. So you will get the, the slides. You can look at this later, but you can see from the buyers, all the major companies, C-Trip, and all the others are JD and so on. They're all present at this fair. At this year, by the way, this fair is also the venue for the official China National Tourism Day, which is on May 19th before. So this is now happening each year in a different place, and this year it happens in Guangzhou. And so there are a lot of activities. So there is an opening ceremony, and of course there's a buyer's night where you can meet people and have some entertainment and stuff. You can see we do the China Outbound Tourism Forum, and there are other forums as well. And you can see we have speakers like the chairman of PATA and Mrs. Savage, one of the executive directors from UN Tourism, and many other important people. And yes, you could also be one of them. Yeah, as we said, the buyer's night and the conference we are organizing, you can see that we have on the first day keynotes from top tourism leaders, and on the second day we have a session which is about focus on Africa, where we talk especially about Africa. So money is of course an important question. So as I said, so all our services on top of what you're paying for the stand are free. So we are doing this on behalf of the organizers. So the price for a shell scheme, so if it's 9 square meters, it's about 30,000 renminbi, which is about less than $4,000, and you can see what you get for that. So this is a GRTF, and also very quickly, I think we have to look at the time. Look at Beijing International Travel and Lifestyle Fair. As I said, this is a new one done for the first time this year. Before there was a fair called COTTM, China Outbound Travel and Tourism Market, which has been stopped. And so this will be on June 5th to June 7th in a very modern National Convention Center. And so this is, again, organized by Hannah from Milano Fair Company, the same as GRTF, and it's happening just after the WTCF World Tourism City Federation Summit. So if you are visiting there, you can combine these two things together. And so Beijing obviously is the capital, so there are a lot of rich people living there and a lot of people who are seriously interested in other countries beyond sightseeing and just taking a photo. And so that is a good opportunity. And this is travel and lifestyle, when we talk about well-being, when we talk about health, when we talk about natural way of life, life close to the environment, close to nature. So this is exactly what this place is about. And you can see the same services for GTF. You also can have for the BRTLF. So it's the same, helping before, helping during the time, helping after the time. And also we have a conference which will all be on the same day, the first day, June the 5th, where we will also talk about outdoor tourism. And while skiing is probably not so much the topic for East Africa, but the third session, lifestyle tourism, that is something where certainly Africa can shine. And so the CTW Chinese Tourism Welcoming Award will take place in Beijing on the 6th of June on a special celebrating occasion. So again, I can only recommend that you are applying for that. And so some background information about the fair. You can see they have outbound travel zone especially, but also a specialty travel zone. And you can see also that it is the exhibitors are also including tech and educational travel organizations, and you have special immersive activities, so handicraft, cooking classes, and so on. So it's a bit wider than just only the traditional travel markets. And so again, you have a PSA system, and you can use to make bookings before. And actually, there's also a inbound tourism development conference taking place at the same time, which also guarantees that we will have some important speakers for our conference who come for the inbound tourism development conference, which is happening just before the fair. So as this is the first time, so the organizers have set the prices at a lower level. You can see that a 9 square meters stand is only 20,000 renminbi, which is less than $3,000. So very competitive pricing. And again, all the services you get from us are included in this price, so you don't have to pay anything extra for that. So with that, I think I will end. You can, of course, all the contacts for Kenya should be via Ecotourism Kenya. If you are not in Kenya, please contact us directly. You can see here the email addresses of my colleague Pragya Kanal, who is specifically working on these fairs, and also you can contact me, of course, if you want. And you can see there's also our website address there. And so let me finish by showing you this video very quickly, and then we go to the Q&A session.
The COTRI recommended exhibitor, GITF, Guangzhou International Travel Fair 2026, taking place May 21-23 in Guangzhou, is the leading and longest established tourism fair in South China, including Hong Kong SAR. The fair and the accompanying conference organized by COTRI China Outbound Tourism Research Institute is the gateway to the most important outbound tourism source market region for China. By joining GITF as a COTRI recommended exhibitor, you gain access to a comprehensive package of exclusive benefits at no additional cost. Before the fair, you are fully prepared for success. Take part in an online preparation webinar to ensure you present the right products, tell the right stories, and build the right connections. You will be featured in COTRI Weekly, receive individual online consulting with COTRI CEO Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Arlt, and benefit from practical support such as sourcing local staff, creating Chinese business cards, and identifying the most suitable Chinese distribution partners for your products. During the fair, COTRI support continues on site. Join the welcome dinner and receive insider guidance for a successful exhibition. Display the Recommended by COTRI logo on your stand and business cards. Enjoy priority consideration for CTW award applications and GITF conference panel participation, and receive assistance in arranging targeted meetings with relevant business partners. After GITF, the value extends far beyond the exhibition halls. Benefit from follow-up meetings with special interest contacts, continued visibility through COTRI weekly editorials and articles, and the creation of a long-term cooperation network. COTRI also supports FAM trips, Chinese delegation visits, and marketing activities in China under preferential conditions, while offering priority access to future fairs and conferences. Most fairs end when the halls close. With COTRI, your GITF contacts are transformed into long-term market success. Take part in GITF Guangzhou International Travel Fair 2026 as a COTRI recommended exhibitor and position your business at the heart of China's outbound tourism market. For more information and participation details, please contact pr@meaningfultourismcenter.org or info@meaningfultourismcenter.org.
Okay, so and of course the same is also true for BITF, and as I said, for Kenya, so please contact directly with Ecotourism. Outside Kenya, please contact with us. So this is what I wanted to share. I hope you gained some insights into the new development in the Chinese market, which are reflecting a more mature market where people have gained experience in traveling and have learned that it doesn't make so much sense to jump from one place to another and just take a photo and run away again. So this is something which is a global trend, but which also China sees very much at the forefront of this trend. And so I very much hope that that will be an inspiration. And luckily, of course, for many organizations, many companies, it wouldn't make sense to go there by themselves. That is too much effort, maybe also too much cost. But having a joint stand under the leadership of Ecotourism Kenya, that will make a lot of sense, and we will do our best to help that this is really a successful undertaking. And as you saw, well, the number of African exhibitors is not very large, so you will have a real advantage that all the African tour operators, all the African organizations interested in increasing travel to Africa will come to your stand for sure, because there are not so many other African destinations already working in this area. So with that, thank you very much from my side, and so I can hand back to Lynette and Mary, and I'm looking forward to receive some questions or comments from your side.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor. Given a very good overview for the Chinese tourism market, the demographics breakdown before explaining the fairs. So we'd like to welcome any questions or comments from the audience. Yes. So we have one from Georgia, from Surrey Collection and Sano Safaris. What marketing strategies can the Kenyan market leverage on to capture the Chinese outbound markets, tourism market more effectively? Professor, unmute.
Now, sorry. One of the answers is obviously what we are talking about. Go to China, join the fairs, and it is well, joining the fairs is one part. The other part is, of course, as always, if you want to know your customers, you have to see where they are living. So, what is the situation? And of course, when we said before, we talk about the 100 million richest people in China, and they almost practically all of them live in big cities and 20 million, 25 million cities where there's almost no nature. So they live in concrete jungles. And so if you go there and if you go to Guangzhou and to Beijing, you will have this experience that the few places where you have nature, we have parks, how precious this is for the Chinese, how much they're interested in that. So you can, I think, by going to China and experience some of the Chinese big cities with your own senses, you will better be able to understand how valuable it is what you have in your home country, what you can offer, which in many cases for you might be normal. So that you have birds in the trees in the street, which in China you don't have. And so therefore, I think one is of course knowing the market by your personal experience, and especially if it is new market. So fairs are the easiest way where you have a lot of contacts and a lot of potential partners, meeting potential partners in a short period of time. So therefore, yeah, of course, there's beyond that, the Kenya Tourism Board is doing marketing activities, and so for that, I mean, the key point I think to understand is, as usual, there is not the Chinese market and the Chinese traveler. So these are 100 million people, and they have it's very different if you have a 35-year-old or a 30-year-old guy who have been studying in Australia and speaks perfect English and has been traveling already to 10 years, or you have a 55-year-old entrepreneur who might have earned a lot of money but is not speaking very well any foreign language. So these are very different people. They have very different interests, and you have to do very different marketing for them. But I think the key point is to tell people the diversity of your offer, so that there is something beyond safari. So when you come to Kenya, and that this is lacking, so that there is still I think there's old image on both sides. So many people on the supply side think all Chinese come in big groups and they want just to take a photo, and on the demand side they think they only offer safari, there's nothing else. And so that is for both sides it is learning. So it is not just talking, it's also very much listening and learning. And then the best way to do that is, of course, to go to a fair where you can meet a lot of business partners, and where you can also, outside the fair, have an experience for some days how your customers are living and how different the life is in a big city in China compared to the life in Africa.
All right. Gotten a thumbs up from George. I think he's satisfied with the response.
Okay.
So you could consider both the Beijing and the Guangzhou fairs to start connecting with the Chinese tourism market. I know our major tourism markets for Kenyan tourism businesses are Western Europe and Northern America, but that gives an over-reliance to such markets, and we are vulnerable to either the war, the climate change, the EU green claims directives, and the like. So it is good to diversify our clientele base. Yes.
Yes, and of course, unfortunately, I think we are all learning this right now, the hard way. So I'm based here in Nepal, and so I just saw the latest numbers that the number of European travelers arriving in Nepal, now it's a main season here, springtime, is half of what it was last year, because most people, they fly to here via Doha and Dubai, and this is now cut. And I think for Africa, it is the same point, that you also will have less European visitors this year, because they will be scared when to use Middle East airports, which is also, I think, for Africa, one of the major hubs. So therefore, it is, yes, it is, of course, it is never a good idea to put all your eggs into one basket. So every farmer knows that, every housewife knows that. But it's also, yeah, now we can see, especially with the war going on, and with the places we all thought are safe, like Dubai, are now, people remember, oh, they're in the Middle East where there's a lot of conflicts. So that is therefore, yes, to look east. And of course, it is not only China, it is also Southeast Asia. There are also probably Singapore as a market, or Japan as a market, or South Korea. But China is simply the biggest market. And also, as there's so much business going on between Africa and China, so there's, of course, also uh, what is called leisure tourism. So the mixture of business tourism and leisure tourism. So that also, I know from many Chinese friends that they are combining a trip, which might be a business trip to Nairobi for some business, but then, of course, once they're there, they also want to do a few days something else, and experiences, especially ecotourism, especially experience in nature, which they cannot experience in China. So that is so therefore, yeah, Mary, you're absolutely right. It's absolutely necessary to diversify your source markets. And some years ago, I've been working for Réunion Island, and I learned that 90% of the tourists going to Réunion are from France, from mainland France. And I thought, wow, you're a brave people. I mean, what happens if the oil price goes to $150 a barrel, and the ticket from Paris to Réunion doubles in price, and then this market breaks down? Then what are you doing? And so I think this is the same thing. So Kenya, of course, is in a better position. It is more diversified already, but that is what you have to do. And yeah, the current conflict in the Middle East are showing us how easy it is to break it, and how much we are all depending on peace to have a successful tourism business.
Yes. Yeah, just for clarification, one can register for one fares as well as both fares.
Yes, and so also, of course, we have to mention that if you are participating in both fairs, there will, of course, be some discount. There will be some better price offer if you're going to both fairs. So this is something. So clearly, this is this discussion is with the organizers. So we are not the organization signing the contract for the stand. This is what the company in China is doing. So our services are free on top of that. But of course, we are working closely with them. I've been working with them for many years, and obviously there is the opportunity. That depends, of course, also how big the stand is. So how many people are participating, so that you can also get better conditions and at a better price. And I think it makes a lot of sense to go to both fairs. And so there's a week in between. So if people have the opportunity to use this, and well, there's also another fair in Shanghai in between. So we are not promoting, but of course you can all go Guangzhou, Shanghai, Beijing, and cover all three markets. But that makes a lot of sense. And yes, you will get good conditions. And therefore, I think if Ecotourism Kenya is organizing a stand at both fairs and people there can join, then I think still the companies will be able to decide if they come to both fairs or if they come to one or the other. That might also be where they already have contacts or where they see their preferences. So of course, I mean it's very always not easy to make generalizations, but I would think basically the people in the south are more into nature and ecotourism, and the people in the north are maybe a bit more into culture tourism and heritage and history. But of course, normally it's a combination of both. But so therefore, if somebody is mostly concentrating on heritage tourism, then maybe the Beijing is if you have to choose the better market, and if it's really ecotourism, then maybe Guangzhou is a better market. And so the south of China. So, but that is, of course, China is uh, not as big as Africa, but almost as big as Africa. So therefore, there is it's certainly bigger than Europe. So and I think nobody in Kenya is saying, well, the Portuguese market and the Swedish market are the same. So we know that there's a difference between a Spanish guy and a Polish guy, or a German and a Greek. And in China, it's the same. So the people in the north are very different from the people in the south, and so on. But in the north, you eat noodles. In the south, you eat rice, for instance. So therefore, it is there is no way that you can catch the Chinese market. It's like there's no place to catch the European market. It's just too big and too diverse, and so therefore. That is something where anybody who is promising to you that he can cover the whole Chinese market is not telling the truth.
All right. Do we have a deadline for the exhibition registration?
Sorry, say again.
Do we have a registration deadline? For those who may be interested, they need to
Not
have
from our
signed
side.
up.
I mean, this is something I think for you. So for Kenya, so you will have to say what is the deadline for it, because you have to organize this from of course, I mean, for practical reasons. Well, we have 2 months before JTF and 2.5 months or almost 3 months before BITLF. So I mean, it should be decided within the next month or so, because you need some time to preparation. And if we know who's coming and we know what products they are offering, then we will also, of course, start to talk to our Chinese partners and make sure that we have the right people talking to you during the fair. We also need a bit of time for that, but there's no fixed deadline. So the both fairgrounds are rather massive in space, so there is probably not the danger that it is sold out. So for marketing reason, I could scare you to say, "Oh, it will be sold out be quick." But I'm honest, so it's I don't think there will be a problem. This problem, but so therefore, no, of course, it's you need to prepare. You need to talk to the people in China before, because I mean, let me say that. That is why we developed this COTRI recommended exhibitor system. That in the past there have always been people, they came to China and for as an exhibitor, and they did not prepare anything. They just went there and said, "Oh, let's see who's coming, who's talking to us, and then we will do on the spot." This is not working. So the fair, most people come, also the buyers, they come with a pre-set schedule, and they're not just walking around and looking who's there. They have the schedule before, and you have also to, that's what we are helping to prepare. So what kind of questions will they ask? So what answers do you have? What kind of products you should offer? So you need some preparation for that. Obviously, you need a little bit of time, but basically, I think it will be the decision for Kenyan companies, for your members. So if there, and for you, if there is enough interest to start the stand at both fairs. For other, of course, for anybody outside Kenya, so they can come directly to us, and then we can help them with that. But I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's now. There's in the beginning of May, the Arabian Travel Mart was supposed to happen, and I know many people who have been saying now, "Oh, the Arabian Travel Mart is not happening, so maybe I can spend my budget and I can spend the time which I was originally planning to go to Dubai." Now the Middle East is not the big market for this year for sure. Let's switch to China, and that is, I think, another argument that now the Chinese market has become more important than before, because you will have less Europeans, less US Americans, less Middle East travelers than you had you could expect before some crazy people started this war.
All right. We'll be sure to update for a definitive deadline within the March of April. As you've said, a lot of preparation does go into it. I'm sure you're familiar, as you also go to, expos and exhibitions, from flights to accommodations and the like. So we'll be sure to communicate that. Do you have any other questions or comments?
So if not immediately, so on the one hand, of course, for Kenya, so we have Ecotourism Kenya, so Mary Lynn, so I'm sure you'll be able to answer questions, and if for other people, so of course, please contact us anytime. So as I told, we have one of our colleagues, Pragya, she is doing 24/7 the work for this. And we're happy to answer any questions. And maybe one thing we didn't mention, which is for Africa, for many countries important. So if you are attending the fair, the organizers will issue and that is also a question how much time you need before. They will issue an invitation letter, which will help you to get a visa for China. Now, in many countries, they don't need a visa anymore, but for many African countries, you still need a visa for China. They will help you with that. But also, I have to say that for Guangzhou and for Beijing, many of so they have for most countries, they have now a visa policy that for 4 days or 5 days, if you have a return ticket, you get a visa on arrival, so that there you don't need to apply for a visa beforehand. But of course, you have to check for which country which regulations are there. But the exhibitors or the organizers of the fair, they will issue an official statement with a red round stamp of what you have in China. So that will help you to get faster, if necessary, a visa, because this is a national Chinese event. So of course, this is certainly something. Even so, it is preferred if you need a visa and you cannot get the visa on arrival, then it takes a couple of weeks to get the visa. So you have to be aware of that. That is another point, not to postpone the decision too much, so that you don't want to end up with this problem.
All right. Let me just say the dates once again. The Guangzhou International Travel Fair is 21st to 23rd May. And then the one for Beijing is 5th to 7th June 2026. Yes. So I believe Professor has given us a lot of information to think on and digest, and we hope that you will be planning with your teams internally to participate. Yes, so I think we can conclude this bit with your very famous quote that you keep saying, that Africa is the future.
Yes. Yes, and you can just look at the statistics, the average age per continent, and you can find. So China has been profiting a lot in the past that they had what is called the demographic dividend, so that you have a lot of young people, not too many old people. Now China is not like this anymore, but Africa is the youngest continent in the world, and I think so that is one of the reasons why Africa has a very good future and will be the rising star in the coming decades. Okay, thank you so much, and I hope we meet in Guangzhou and in Beijing in a short period of time.
All right, thank you. Before we close, we just want to share one announcement. We shared the information last week. We're in the process of, hosting the Ecotourism Kenya Sustainable Tourism Forum on 4th to 5th June. And we'd like to invite you to, peruse through the website to get them more information on the topics and explore new registration as a delegate or even as an exhibitor. This time we are convening under the theme of strengthening business, conservation, and human rights in tourism. And we have broken down the topics on our website, so I invite you to look through that and register. Yes. So thank you for your time today. That will be all. Yes, thank you and have a good rest of the day.
Okay, thank you. And as we say in Nepal, namaste.
Namaste.